Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Strange Case of Sean here with the 16th chapter of my story, New World Order, Undertaker. A story written by me with some assistance from ChatGPT. Before we get into the chapter, I will give a recap, but be sure to check out all the other previous chapters. And of course, if you enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. I appreciate all the support. Chapter 15 saw the official arrival of a new faction in the Dungeon of Excellence. Yeah, I changed the name. It's a fictional story. Moving on. Made up of Bret Hart and the Steiner brothers. They spoke about how they were sick and tired of being overlooked in WCW and decided to take matters into their own hands. The Undertaker, alongside the nWo, applauded the group's actions, but they decided to trade barbs with words and their fists. Dusty Rhodes stopped the chaos and announced some matches for the next pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc. The first match announced is Bret Hart taking on Sting, with the #1 contendership for the World Heavyweight Championship up for grabs at StarrCade. The second match announced was The Undertaker will be defending the championship against an unconfirmed opponent. On the same night, we saw the debut of the DOE against the nWo, represented by Stevie Ray and the Acolytes. The DOE found success in their first match as a faction, delivering a blow to the morale of the nWo. On Thunder, the Outsiders made their intentions clear, that they wanted the WCW Tag Team Championships back. The team of Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko took issue with that. The Outsiders then challenged the duo to a tag match that night, with the winners gaining the right to fight the Steiners for the titles at Halloween Havoc, which they accepted. Before that, we saw Stevie Ray lose another match and be confronted by the Acolytes. Just when things appeared to possibly go sideways, Kane made his way out to the ring. The nWo members stared at each other when suddenly Kane launched the first attack on Stevie Ray, followed by the Acolytes. Booker T then made his way out to save his brother, but they were quickly overwhelmed. In the main event of Thunder, we saw the tag match between the Outsiders and Malenko and Jericho. The Outsiders were out-wrestled, with Hall eventually tapping out after Nash was kept at bay by Jericho. The team of Malenko and Jericho, who still don't have a team name yet, will challenge the Steiners for the WCW Tag Team Championships. After the match, the Acolytes once again made an appearance. The Outsiders were unsure of what exactly was going on when they were attacked from behind by Kane and Vampiro. The original members of the nWo were brutalized, with the writing on the wall that their time in the group was now at an end. The scene of their demise was a sight to behold, so much so that the Undertaker and Paul joined the nWo in the ring and approved of the carnage. The original incarnation of the nWo has been brought to the soil. Now, what does Undertaker and this nWo have in store? Also, who is challenging the Undertaker at Halloween Havoc? Well, let's find out, shall we? An episode of Nitro opens with a bell tolling and new music for what appears to be the nWo. The group of Vampiro, the Acolytes, and Kane are led to the ring by Paul and WCW World Heavyweight Champion, The Undertaker. The crowd delivers loud boos. The group enters the ring. Paul hands Taker a mic. Taker tries to speak, but the crowd continues booing. Taker is growing upset. Vampiro yells at the fans to shut their mouths. Taker finally begins. You fans act holier than me, when the fact remains, if you had a fraction of the power I had, you would do things just the same. You cannot fault me for serving as a beacon to lost souls. They search for solace, for guidance, for a purpose. You cannot fault me for reaping the benefits. If the order was to be a conduit for them to come together, so be it. If the nWo was a means to an end, so be it. If the world of professional wrestling needs a reckoning at my bidding, then so be it. The soil is welcome to all. The nWo claps while the crowd continues to boo. Then the music of Executive Vice President of WCW, Dusty Rhodes, plays, and he makes his way to the entrance ramp with a microphone. The crowd cheers. Dusty begins. Now, Dead Man, That was some adjective of a sermon you spewed there. Well, the real adjective I want to say would get us thrown off the air, so I'm going to keep that to myself. But here is something I don't want to keep to myself, and I'm excited to tell this entire arena tonight and the fans watching at home. Tonight, you will see a star-studded main event when the Hitman, Bret Hart, picks a tag partner to take on his opponent at this weekend's pay-per-view, Sting, and a partner of his own in a tag team match. The crowd cheers some more while Taker and Paul look on amused, and the rest of the nWo are stoic. Dusty then continues. Like I said last week, I didn't forget about you now, dead man. There is something else I've been keeping to myself, and that is just who exactly you'll be defending that championship against at Halloween Havoc. You want to be cryptic with us? You want to be cryptic with the fans? Fine, then we can play that game too. Your opponent's name is going to be revealed this week on Thunder. The crowd cheers some more while Taker is unamused while Paul shouts at Dusty. Dusty continues. Along with learning who your match will be with on Sunday, you'll also be having a match of your own on Thunder when you take on the #1 contenders for the tag team championships, Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko, in a handicap match. Dusty then waves bye to the nWo and walks backstage, leaving the group furious. In the main event of Nitro, we will see the two men fighting for the #1 contendership for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship this weekend pick partners to team up with in a tag team match. First out are the Dungeon of Excellence, Bret Hart and the Steiner brothers. As they get to the ring, we see Hart will team up with Scott Steiner. Then we see the entrance of Sting, who makes a thunderous entrance accompanied by great cheers. He points the bat to the entrance ramp, and the partner he chose is revealed to be his friend Lex Luger. They make their entrance together to the ring. The bell rings and the match begins. Steiner and Luger lock up, testing their power. Scott shoves Luger to the ground and follows that up with a flex as the crowd boos. They lock up again. This time, Luger shoves Steiner back across the ring to the corner, flexing to a big pop. Steiner charges again, but gets shoulder blocked down. Luger follows that up with a press slam that sends Scott rolling to the floor to regroup with Rick and Bret. Back inside, they lock up once again. Steiner is able to out-wrestle Luger, controlling him with ground moves and holds. As Luger begins to muster up strength to break out of a hold, Steiner delivers a clubbing blow to Luger's chest, knocking the wind out of him. Steiner tags in Bret. Bret looks to humiliate Luger with kicks, but Luger is able to take control with clotheslines and a power slam. Luger is able to get a quick tag to Sting. Sting delivers a series of power moves, draining Hart. Sting whips Bret into the corner and looks to hit the Singer Splash, but Scott pulls him out of the way, causing Sting to hit the turnbuckle. Scott uses the time Sting takes to try and recover and gets Hart over to his corner for a tag. Scott hits a chop block to Sting's leg. Scott then begins to focus on weakening Sting's lower body. Scott tries for some pin attempts, but Sting is able to kick out multiple times. Scott throws Sting over to the DOE's corner and tags in Bret, and they together hit Sting with a double team move. Hart then delivers a double axe handle from the second rope to a grounded Sting. He tries for a pin, but Sting kicks out again. Hart then argues with the referee. Hart then picks up Sting, but is able to counter with a jawbreaker. Sting tries to follow that up, but Scott sneaks in a blind shot from the apron. Bret capitalizes with a snap suplex, slowing the pace. Scott tags back in, overpowering Sting with a pump handle slam and wearing him down with suplexes. Bret and Scott cut the ring in half, taking turns punishing Sting. Rick Steiner distracts the referee so Bret can choke Sting on the ropes. Scott hits a big Steiner screwdriver on Sting and goes for a pin, but only gets a near fall. Steiner then cinches in a sleeper hold. Sting tries to rally, but Rick pulls Luger off the apron just as Sting reaches for the tag. Sting breaks free with another jawbreaker on Steiner and finally crawls to Luger and makes the tag. Luger storms in, hammering both heels with clotheslines and running forearms. He slams Bret. He then slams Scott. He then signals for the torture rack. As Luger hoists Steiner up for the rack, Rick hops onto the apron to distract the ref once again. Sting pulls Rick down and begins punching him for interfering. With the referee distracted, Bret runs in and hits Luger with a low blow, causing Luger to wince in pain and drops Steiner down. Scott is able to tag in Bret. Bret picks up Luger and hits him with a pile driver and follows that with a pin. Sting sees his team is about to lose, and as he tries to return to the ring, he gets shoulder checked by Steiner and rammed into the barricade. The referee counts 1, 2, 3. Bret Hart and Scott Steiner emerge victorious. The DOE celebrates their victory to end Nitro. On the Thunder before Halloween Havoc, we see a backstage segment with The Undertaker casually warming up for his match against Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko in the night's main event, accompanied by the nWo. Paul then walks up to him. Paul looks worried. He begins. "I would be dishonest if I didn't share my truth, Taker. I cannot shake this feeling of uneasiness about tonight." Taker stops his warm-ups and responds. "What do you mean?" Paul continues. "It's just, we've been pieces of power in play, and now I feel we are at a disadvantage. I mean, we still don't know who you're fighting in just a few short days' time, and you have a 2-on-1 handicap match tonight." Taker walks up to Paul. Taker replies, "Have you too lost your faith in me?" Paul looks up horrified and responds, "Oh no, absolutely not. I can't absolve this anxiety. It is weighing on me." Taker puts his hand on Paul's shoulders and responds, "Paul, you know me. You know what I am capable of. The feeling of anxiety is flattering. Dusty has been all talk since he came into his position. We have been ready since the beginning of our time with this order. We are ready for tonight. We will be ready for Halloween Havoc." Paul smiles. Taker then turns and looks at the camera and kicks them out of the nWo locker room. In another backstage segment, we see Dean Malenko warming up, then joined by Chris Jericho. Jericho then begins talking. "Look, Stinko, I wish we could just spend tonight strategizing for this weekend, but unfortunately, we have to deal with the Fright Fest reject. But something has been bothering me." Malenko responds, "We are ready for the Steiners, but what's bothering you?" Jericho responds, "Duh, I know that, especially now that we know they will cheat to win. I kind of respect that. No, what's bothering me is that what are we going to be called? We are kind of a team now, no?" Malenko looks unamused. He responds, "Look, neither of us really wanted this, but somehow, some way, we became champions. That was a good feeling. But if we can't regain the gold, there may not be a need for a team name." Jericho looks surprisingly taken aback. They are then interrupted by Executive WCW Vice President Dusty Rhodes. He begins, "Hey fellas, there's something I need to chat with you about regarding your match tonight. Walk with me." They begin walking, and the cameraman follows, but Dusty stops them. He addresses the camera. "This is a conversation for just us now. Enjoy the remainder of the show. Trust me, you shouldn't change the channel." Dusty then pushes the camera away. In the main event, Thunder crashes in the arena, and The Undertaker makes his entrance alongside Paul. They make their way to the ring. The Undertaker gives his gear and championship to Paul. Taker and Paul look to the ramp and await his opponents. First, the music of Jericho plays, but he does not make his entrance. The music stops. Taker continues warming up, while Paul looks confused. Then, the music of Dean Malenko plays, but again no one makes his entrance. The music again stops. Now Taker looks at the ramp, and Paul's confusion grows. The ring announcer states that the referee will begin a count to 10, and if Jericho and Malenko do not get into the ring, they will forfeit the match, and the victory will be awarded to The Undertaker. The referee begins the count. He gets to 9, and Taker and Paul begin an early celebration. The Titantron then shows a view of Vampiro beaten up backstage. Taker looks confused. Paul is horrified. The camera pans over to show Farouk and Bradshaw also taken out, lying on the floor. Taker and Paul trade glances, and their confusion grows. The camera then shows Kane laid out as well. The backstage area is in ruin. Taker grabs Paul by his jacket and demands answers to what is going on. The camera then pans to a security guard who walks down a hallway. They then arrive at a door. The security guard knocks on the door. The crowd cheers uncontrollably. The door opens, and after a delay, another security guard walks out, shaking his head no. Taker and Paul stare at the Titantron. Then from behind, we see the returning Goldberg run into the ring and measure up the world champion. The arena is shaking with anticipation. Taker turns around and gets hit with a devastating spear. Goldberg looks to Paul, who he then chases out of the ring while dropping the championship. Goldberg returns his attention to Taker, who's recovering with wobbly legs. He turns around and gets hit with another spear. The fans are jumping up and down with excitement. Goldberg then brings Taker to his feet and then hits him with a gigantic jackhammer. Taker is laid out in the center of the ring, and Goldberg stands over the champion with the WCW World Heavyweight Championship to end Thunder. The return of Goldberg sent the message that he could in fact be the key to the destruction of the nWo. At the next pay-per-view, he gets the opportunity to defeat The Undertaker and claim his first world championship, along with defending his undefeated streak. We've also seen the Dungeon of Excellence form and make their mark, and they will defend their tag team titles against the team of former champions Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko. But in arguably the most important match of the pay-per-view, we will see the Hitman, Bret Hart, take on the Vigilante Sting and find out who will challenge for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship at the monumental StarrCade. But will Halloween Havoc end in just that? We'll have to find out in the next chapter. Thanks for watching, stay strange, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next video.